All right, same as usual. Let's get this sound check going. Whoa, that's loud. Okay, did not need that from my phone. Well, at least I know the sound's working. That's beautiful, but man, that was loud. And make sure it is synced, just like before. Yep. All right. So this video, well, this stream is going to be a bit different than usual. I kind of had the idea midway through as I was setting this up that I think it would be a better idea, at least for certain games that I do have on the channel that I play, especially if it's highly multiplayer based, or at least something I plan on playing every now and then or every so often. I did do it very lightly with the Final Fantasy XIV video session I had, but even then that's more of a whole session than just explaining it. So essentially I want to explain basically what you're going to be looking at over time as you watch these videos. And when it comes to games like Dead by Daylight, for example, if you've either never watched it or are unsure what you're looking at, even then the content can still be kind of meh or kind of hard to look at. Or even if you're just like enjoying just me talking, every now and then you want to look back and kind of understand what's happening. So I'm going to do, I guess, my kind of makeshift explanation of things. It's just like what you'll be seeing. So let's see how this goes. Maybe it'll be a recurring thing, maybe not, but it's good to just have it. That being said, let me start in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so when it comes to playing Dead by Daylight on this channel, you're going to be seeing me play Killer primarily. I don't enjoy playing Survivor, and it's not really my thing. And in this game, if you've either just seen it around or haven't heard of it, or maybe you have a good grasp of the game mechanics and you play it often. But just to give well, I guess just explain it anyway. But Dead by Daylight is a 4 versus 1 multiplayer game. And the best way to describe it is think of like old cartoons like Tom and Jerry, Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, stuff like that. It's a game of cat and mouse where there's 4 mice and 1 cat. Or in this case, 1 killer, 4 survivors. The perspective of the survivors is going to be in third person, and perspective of the killer is going to be in first person. First person being like most shooters. You see the gun, you look down, you might see your legs kind of deal. Where third person, think more of a character action game like Devil May Cry, Vanquish, stuff you've seen on me play on the channel primarily for a more easier kind of look for things. So it's more or less that survivors have multiple advantages and killers have multiple advantages. Survivor being they kind of have a nice camera range to see more around them, where you have the camera range of seeing in front of you, but you kind of have some added benefits as well. And when going into this game, it may seem like a lot at first, but I'll break it down very, very kind of just one step at a time. And don't treat this as a tutorial, because there are a lot of great tutorials out there on YouTube of this game that can really go more in depth with it. I am not one of those adept pro players kind of deal when it comes to this game. I do my best. And even right now, I'm doing something I've never actually done, which is play this game with headphones. And most tutorials out there for kills will usually recommend that you play with headphones. And I'll let you know why as we go further into this. So this is the base menu. You'll rarely see me go through this at all, so it's not anything to worry about. But right now, this is going to be the main bread and butter of the entire gameplay for most part. So the moment you load in, you see all this stuff, and you're like, okay, what's happening? Let's start from the right, since that's where the most information is, but this is also the information that you don't even need to worry about. The right is your ranking within your perspective, and to my perspective, which is going to be the killer. The game ranks from 20 to 1, 20 being the lowest, 1 being the highest. So, and post-game matches, I'll usually scroll around and see what the ranks of other people are. That lets me know, or at least give me a rough estimate on what type of ranking they are in terms of their ability of this game. I learn more of that in the match than I do at the end, but this is more like a nice little notice. Also, it lets me know how well the matchmaking is going and how well I'm potentially doing. I don't treat this game as competitive, so I don't honestly care. It's just more or less, if something feels too easy, I like to know why, or if there's a tactic I've seen, I like to know what rank that person did that tactic in, so I kind of learn from it. On this side, this is your personal player level. Like most multiplayer games, you do have a player level, so that's just how often someone has played this game on their perspective account. That's it. This marker here is blood points. This is what is used to purchase what are essentially perks and skills for both killer and survivor. Over here is basically the currency used to purchase cosmetics, and they're only gained through experience. So if you want to get a cosmetic for, let's say, what I have on for the pig right now, which is the name of this killer, I have a biker jacket and leggings. I grabbed that using some iridescent points, iridescent shards, and they may also be used for another mechanic that I'll go into later. Same with these. These are the currency that is used for cash that this is the currency that's used when you pay actual cash. So usually stuff will cost a lot less using this than this, but you gotta use cash to get this for the most part of things. And then every now and then they may have an event or two or a character progression upgrade that might get you some, but in most cases with a lot of multiplayer games, it's never enough for what you need. This menu you saw pop up here, that is primarily just challenges in the most part of things, and their occasional battle passes that they have. As you can see right now, they have one open. I don't have a challenge selected. We'll go into that a bit later, but it's not that important because you won't be seeing much of that. And then the bottom tier list is same for the battle pass, letting you know that you have something within that battle pass you can unlock. They have both a free and premium version of it. So, and I don't ever pay for it because I don't care for that kind of thing in this game. This is not one of those games I care for. So now that the right side is done, we're going to stick to the left. The left side is going to be where you're going to see most of me navigating through. So off the bat, as you can see, these are a long list of different killers and such. And each one has their own gimmick along with their own abilities and perks. And as you can see, this game does have a lengthy amount. This game's been out for some time, so its popularity, I say, has kind of greatly increased over this past unfortunate year of 2020, and it's good for its player base to have such a large variety. And they also have introduced crossplay, which is the ability to play with people over different consoles and PC. And each killer has their own respective levels as well, which is used to unlock different abilities and such that I'll go over right now. When it comes to a killer's ability and everything as that, I'll usually explain it if it's the first time I'm playing that killer on this channel. Or I may accidentally not, because it's kind of more of instinct, because I played all the killers that are highlighted with the kind of beige background are the ones that I have/own. You start the game with, I believe, at base, the first 4 here and the 3 down here. It's been a bit, but I believe those are the base ones you get. So they give you a solid amount of different killers to work with. The rest down here are DLC ones that I personally have bought that I thought would be more interesting. Or in the rare occurrence, which is the only one that's actually the rare occurrence, would be the clown. And I'll get into that in a second, because that actually does come into play with the loadout screen. So when you see me going through this, it's just me just selecting a killer. And when it comes to how you set up your killer, this is where you see the loadout screen. The loadout screen, depending on how invested a player is in the killer, can be quite vast and just a lot of different icons. You're not too sure what they are, what they do. And the more you see people play this game, you kind of get notice of certain perks that are used more often than not. Or if you watch someone, they tend to kind of say what their perk is and what they're running. And especially if it's if they're streaming and someone asks in chat, they will always gladly explain what their perk is and how it helps them throughout the game. When you choose a killer, you have their base power, which it's a lot of text, but it can be reduced down to a lot once you start learning how the killer functions. And once I'm finished with this tutorial on the base, I'll go into the pig's kind of full kit to a degree. You have their base power, which the game will always give you a description over anything you hover over to kind of give you that idea of how the killer works. And then you have what are essentially called add-ons, and this will change the bottom section. These are different modifiers that get added to your killer's abilities that can be used to either change up how they play, reduce the time it takes to use an ability, increase the time it takes to use an ability, make things more difficult for the survivors while your ability's active or inactive. There's a lot of different ways to mix it up, and a lot of people kind of have their kind of set preferences to how effective a killer's add-ons are. In this case, for me personally, I don't use as much as the kit for this character as I should or should not. It all, like I said, it all comes to your preference when it comes to multiplayer games. Then from here on, we have the offerings. Offerings are baseline modifiers that either will increase the amount of blood points that you gain in a match for doing a particular task. One can be used to select a specific map. If you have your preference, you want to test something out, or you just want to annoy people with a potential build you may or may not have. The offerings can kind of vary. They did add a recent one, which I'm not much of a fan of, that changes the location of what are essentially used to which is the location of the basement, and the basement is a particular area that is used for capturing survivors, but it's more of an RNG sense when it comes to that kind of thing. So I don't really care for it either way. It just increases a probability of it appearing in this specific place, and for this kind of game, it's not that useful. And then when it comes to perks, I'm just going to press this here. They come in a wide variety. And what I was getting into before of how when I bought the clown, first it was more or less, I was slight interest, but it was more or less for his perks. Because an added bonus of when you grab a killer or survivor is that when they reach a certain level, you can get their set perks that they came with and use it for other killers when you unlock it for them. So if one killer has a perk that you like, but you're not a big fan of that killer, you can move it to a different one. So when you see me going back and forth on this screen, kind of moving stuff around, or like me saying that I really want to get this one on my draw, it becomes more or less yeah, I got this killer and I got this perk and I want to use it on this killer instead because I think it will change up how they play for me. And just as the power, anytime you hover over any of these perks, it will read over it and just give you a kind of description of what you're dealing with. And unfortunately on stream, it's not really too grand to go back because a lot of people like to be in the center of things when it's streaming. But when it comes to videos, I highly recommend that if I might actually do the thing where I just hover over it for a second and then move, and that's kind of my instinctual thing of just like, once you know the icons and what you're kind of looking for, you kind of can just press it off the bat. But if you need a second just to pause, just to read what something does, by all means go ahead. I highly recommend it because then it can understand more of how the game is functioning. And when you're watching other people play Dead by Daylight, it will show you. Eventually, you will start seeing the same ones pop up every now and then, or even some rare ones that kind of look distinguishable. Luckily, each icon in this game, when it comes to your perks that are used, are very distinguishable, and you will know exactly what they look like. And the moment you know what you're looking at, you can kind of automatically think of, okay, so this does this, so they have this going on with this going on with this. So that explains why this is happening and this is happening. Okay, cool. And sometimes you don't even have to really like look at it and think about it, because half the time while going into it, you'll hear them talk about their perk that they're using and why it's helping or why it is not helping during this. And now how you go about unlocking all these perks, offerings, and add-ons is what is known as the Blood Web. The Blood Web is essentially what it looks like. It's a web of different items that you can grab, and just as the perk screen does it, you can look at it and see, okay, so this costs 4,000 blood points, and it gives me this ability. So I'll go this route, and this route to grab this stuff. Or I want to grab this perk that is just a baseline perk, and I can just go here, here, here and grab it. Or in this case, what I did was this is the perk I wanted. Okay, and this is the upgraded version. By the 3 markers on the right of its title, that shows it's the upgraded version. So my first thought was, let me grab this, this, and this. And most of the time, while you're like, when I'm going through the Blood Web, I don't care what the add-ons are to get to it, because I know exactly what I want and I just grab it. Because 9 times out of 10, these will either come in handy or they won't, and I'll never use them. And that's it. Because you don't need add-ons and offerings to enjoy or play this game. They're just the added bonus of things. And the interesting thing about it is that unless you have a particular offering, the add-ons you use, they go away. That's why at this portion you see these numbers at the bottom of people's screens. It shows how many they have, hence the constant need to go to the Blood Web. After it fills up, it randomizes itself and resets, and then you just do the loop again to see what you get. If you have a particular one, same as the perks, if you see the icon, you go straight to it, and there you go. And then after that, it just customize, and that is the cosmetic screen I was talking about earlier. Not really much of importance when it comes to gameplay or just watching it, so there's not much there in this regard. And now the interesting part is going to be the gameplay, but before then, I'm going to explain how this killer works. This killer works in this regard. To give you a full description, this is the Pig, and also more adamantly known as the Jigsaw Killer. It is a movie license killer. This game has, and I believe treats their movie license killers with some respect, and they actually feel like you're playing as that killer. Looking at the screen, this is the baseline screen for a killer. Anytime you're looking at the game or undecided whether or not you want a killer, there are multiple videos out there that will show you what the killer is about. But if you want its kind of baseline stats, you go to attributes. Attributes show their max running speed, the speed at which they go at base, a terror radius. The terror radius is a particular radius that centers from the killer that expands outward in a circular motion, and the closer you are to a survivor, the more they'll hear their heartbeat move faster and faster. That is letting the survivor know that you are near. And that is a particular important thing to notice when utilizing certain perks, both for the killer and potentially people you're against. It's information that is needed to be known for each killer, because each killer has can have different attributes. Some are shorter, hence by the height difference. Some are taller. Some have a tear radius that is smaller, making it easier for you to sneak up on people. Some killers move slower, but their abilities compensate for it. And as you can see, when it comes to perks, each killer comes equipped with their 3 baseline perks. And the way I put it is that these 3 baseline perks are how the developers of the game wanted the killer to play as initially. Whether they work in in a match fully, that's kind of the iffy part about it, in all honesty. So when you look at a killer and you see their perks, it's like where their base perks are, and these will show you exactly what their 3 base perks are. And these ones I won't be going over because I'll go over the perks once I pick them. And these 3 are kind of, well, the second one's more useful than the other 2 for me in most regards. When it comes to her power, the baseline is that she comes equipped with 3 different abilities. She comes with 4 reverse bear traps. And if you don't know what those are, I do apologize, but look up an image before you go on YouTube because it can be quite gory. Essentially, when you knock down a survivor, they're put into what's called a dying state. It happens when they're put in it happens after you hit them once, they go into the injured state. It's when they start limping. After you hit them again, they go into a dying state, which they are on the floor and can crawl. Within that dying state of when you hit a survivor, you can put essentially a trap on their head. The trap will then activate later on in the match when the trap has a chance to activate when a generator is turned on. And the generator is what is needed for the survivors to win the match. And there are, in total, they need to activate 5, and there are about, I want to say like 8 scattered around the map, maybe more. There's not really something I pay attention to too much about how many. Is more or less of their position. And during that time, if they activate one, the trap activates. And around the map, there are going to be white markers, and you'll see it as I play. Looks like essentially a tool workshop table kind of deal that are filled with traps, barbed wire, all that. Within a certain allotted time, which I believe is 12 seconds, they have to search through that and hopefully find a key, because there are 4 in total scattered around the map. And if they find the key, the trap comes off. If they don't, then they have to go to another one and another one and another one. And this is where an RNG takes place, where I don't know which one is the key for the trap I put it on. They don't know either. But I have the locations of where all of them are at all times. They have the location of where they're at all times once it goes on them. So that's kind of an even way to keep it, but still keep that tension going within a match. Another one of her abilities is the ability to crouch. Remember earlier when I was talking about the terror radius and how important that is? When I crouch, I become essentially, I become what a status that is known as undetectable. When undetectable, I have no terror radius. My crouch speed is slow, but I cannot be heard by anyone when it comes within a radius. So it allows me to sneak up on people. And while crouch, I could perform a dash, but the dash takes a couple of seconds to wind up and then launch. But during that dash, I also have a large audible screech. So it is the give and take scenario. I can do a nice easy noodle dash to get to someone, but they'll know I'm readying up the dash. And it's not an ability I use that often because it's not really prime for me. And I'll use this match to kind of get the basics of things as well, because things tend to overlap each other when explaining something. And I'm not too grand at explaining things to a solid degree. So within this match, I will be using I'll be using a perk called Monitor and Abuse. It reduces my terror radius by 8 and increases my field of view. Yes, this game does not have a field of view slider. It's to keep things even, and it's very important because you're in first person. If you were to extend your field of view, it would give you an edge of seeing more things around you. So I completely understand why this game does not have one. It would be very, like, knowledge is very important in this game. So having that kind of knowledge is kind of, well, disturbing and potentially broken. And while I'm chasing a survivor, my tear radius is increased by 8. So essentially, when I'm not chasing a survivor, it reduces by 8. And when I am chasing a survivor, it increases by 8. So it goes to 24, and then it goes back to 32 if I'm chasing them. I will then be running Sloppy Butcher. When I attack a survivor, it causes them to bleed out more, essentially leaving an easier trail to follow. And it gives them a status called Hemorrhage. Hemorrhage is basically a status that, it leaves a status called Mangled. Mangled is basically a status that causes, essentially will soon cause damage over time and knock them down. And they have to heal up in order to remove it. So it's more of a time waster, if anything. Rarely ever lands. Ruin is an ability that you'll be hearing quite often. A lot of people will argue it is the way to balance out the game. In my opinion, it's not really, it doesn't matter to me, because this game is a 4v1. It needs to be on the 4 side for a lot of stuff, or it will seem it needs to be geared towards more of the 4 than the 1, because you need more players. And if you hear that 1 is too powerful against the 4, then it will drive people away. It's better for the mouse to win than the cat most of the time, but it wouldn't be a multiplayer game if the cat couldn't win. Same with the episodes Tom and Jerry. If the mouse always wins, well, then you already know what happens at the end. But if there are moments where the cat wins, then you're like, oh, this just got more fun. And finally, I'll be running what is called Discordance, which recently did get a change. But to sum it up in in basic terms to easier, it is actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna change this. I haven't experimented with this newer version yet, and I'd rather choose something easier and to show off kind of how things can work and synergy wise. I'll be replacing it with what is called Nurse's Calling. It is a perk from the killer known as the Nurse, which she is considered a high tier, difficult to learn character, and I can agree on that one. Essentially, when anyone is healing or being healed, I can see what is essentially their aura around them within 28 meters. So let's say I'm sneaking around or I'm trying to run around and I just see their aura while they're healing and injured, I could just go to them. It's a nice way to, once again, get that knowledge and to keep tracking. That being said, we are going to run a basic aura, a basic offering, and no add-ons. We don't need to go through that, and I'll explain this in the first match, and after that, hopefully I'll be able to do it properly enough to where when you see future footage of anyone playing it, or even through this channel, you can kind of understand how the game works more often. And then make it easier for your viewing experience, instead of you kind of feeling more blind going through watching someone's video, then kind of get that good learning experience of things as well. So you Y to ready up, and then you just wait. Most times, thanks to crossplay, matchmaking times have been significantly increased, in my opinion, compared to what it was before. Like, you get matches within like 15 to 45 seconds now. Before, it felt like a minute to 5, because you only get so much. So when you're on this starter screen, you get solid knowledge. You get to see what items the survivors have. While the survivor side, they don't know what killer they're facing. So that's your first added bonus. They have a toolbox which can be used to rush the gen speed up, or upgrade one, or even to destroy a hook which you need to get survivors on in order to in the game after a certain number of times to get them on there. The flashlight is used to stun you, and you might think, why would anyone ever run up to someone? Well, because let's say I am grabbing a downed survivor and I want to pick them up and put them on the hook. If they get me at the right angle or the right time, I get blinded for a set amount of time, and the survivor that I was then carrying gets dropped. It is once again, every tier here has different power. So I'm going to use this as a explaining game, and then after that I'll just be going like regular, and then I also have to get used to playing with headphones. This is kind of the weird part of things. Luckily this won't be that long of a stream because I just want to get things started and settled, and then the more I go on to things, the more I go on to things, the easier it will be. I'm trying to get better at this, but it's kind of difficult in certain regards as well, because it's kind of like this game is procedurally generated and also contains RNG depending on what killer you play and how much knowledge you have of said game. So the first thing to notice is what map you're on, because like most multiplayer games, the map rotation, you get used to it. And luckily this game in particular at the current moment is going through a graphics overhaul piece by piece. So maps are getting revitalized and renewed, adding a new experience to things. So you'll be seeing that happen within like these next, I want to say 2 years at best. So that's why you'll be seeing a lot of people reacting to different map changes, and you're like, what does it matter? Like, it's a very important graphics overhaul because it changes the way you handle situations now. And the first thing you notice is what map you're on, and you see the auras of red generators. Those are what we need to patrol around and look for survivors on. So movement is very important. For this killer, I have the bear traps I was talking about earlier. These are these white markers here. That right there is a notification letting us know that there is someone working on that generator, and they have potentially messed up or maybe trying to lure you over there. And this is the crouch I was talking about earlier. It's used to sneak around, and then we work from here. The idea is try to get this knowledge of knowing what you're dealing with. They all saw me, but I see at least 3 different people here. You try to go for the first swipe, but maneuvering is also a great benefit that survivors have, and if they can do it properly, it works in their favor. And if you look on the lower left, you can see that I injured that person and they are now limping. The benefit of the Sloppy Butcher perk from before lets me increase their blood trail, and these markers they're making also increases. So you can kind of get that regard. That ding you just heard was the generator being repaired, which can also be seen from the bottom left. That right there was a fake out. Knowledge is important, and trying to kind of figure out how the person plays is in the best regard. Now that they're down, we place a bear trap. The next time they decide to hit a generator, that can activate, or if she decides to take it off beforehand, then she takes it off. This killer's particular thing is RNG. You place them on the hook. You have to place them on the hook 3 times, and that sounds like a lot, and sometimes it is. The main aim for a lot of different killers is different. Everyone has their own preference on how they want to handle things. My ruling on this kind of thing is aim for at least 2 survivors. Never aim for 4. 4 is ridiculous, in my opinion, because that requires a set amount of things to transpire. And that can be quite difficult to do. So we're checking this generator because I can hear the sound of it going in the distance as I was sneaking around. Every map is different, so the layouts kind of change. So this is me trying to fake them out, like so. And everyone's different. You can't expect every tactic to work, but it works out. And this is their blood trail. It happens when they're both injured and in this dying state. It's a way for you to track them and make things easier. And this is me picking them up once again. And then once you pick them up, the hook will be highlighted. And that is the same person with a toolbox. That can be used to disable a nearby hook if necessary. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'll be able to grab this person, because they have the ability to wiggle out after a set amount of time. And that one person blocking me did cause some issues there. So you kind of choose your tactic afterwards. This particular map, I'm used to a back door being had. And that is a beautiful lunge. I'm used to a back door in one of the more RNG kind of styles. Unfortunately, that is not so. And then we just place them on a hook that can be highlighted. And then we move on. So depending on if you feel someone's nearby, you can work from there. And in my opinion, it just kind of depends. What we saw was another noise notification of someone messing up on our white boxes here. Unfortunately, it does seem like they ran away, but this is what they look like. And I saw them at the corner of my eye and heard them, so this was unfortunate on both of their regards. Sound is a very important thing in this game, and since I'm using headphones, it kind of amplifies that. But I don't think I have it on the headphone setting, so it really depends. If you notice that one person coming back, that's because they want to disable the hook. So I can't use it when I pick this person up. When you see people like that, it's better to hit them once and kind of get them away. But then this gives you time to potentially track them. But survivors have different tactics. They're in groups of 4. And if you're unlucky, I call it more unlucky and kind of difficult. But it kind of depends on what you're dealing with. Survivors can play in parties. And when they play in parties, they have what's essentially an added bonus of communication. So they know when you're near, and they know, so they can alert one person to another of when you're near and how you do things. But that's kind of the bread and butter of this game. Track a survivor down, hit them, and then work from there. And as you can see, that is the aura of the Nurse's Calling perk from before coming into play. I can see them healing, so I use this as a way to track them down. Unfortunately, I only get 4 bear traps per game, so once they're all used up, I'm kind of at the mercy of essentially my crouch and attacking. And from there, I kind of work and see what I can do. Knowing that that person had a bear trap on, they're most likely going for the closest one. That's the added knowledge of you trying to figure out where they're at. And if you're lucky, you can get them right as when they don't finish. If you go like that, it adds a little bit of a trickery to it. And she'll drop it, and she'll run the other direction, saving both time. You kind of have to look at every aspect of things to kind of understand how it works for you. Where when I'm playing this, oh yeah, I'll just go for it. When I'm playing this, it has to be one of the things where you kind of have to add that added knowledge of things. I know that he's going to go for healing her, so I can just loop around and grab him. But he decided to finish up the bar, so that was my kind of hesitation there. She's trying to go for the save constantly with involving the flashlight. It's her thing. Most flashlight users, if they know how to use it properly, will go for the flashlight. It makes it easier for them. But if you face a wall, you have a chance of not looking at it and moving from there. All you have to do with flashlight use is just face your head down in most cases, because you kind of already know where you're going. Then you can work from there. She's still in the area though, based on the red scratchings you see. And she's more than likely trying to go for the save. But I can't waste more time with these guys because I haven't essentially been patrolling the generators as I should have. And I thought there was a pallet there, and that was my mistake. The pallets are the things you see them go down, and you saw me break earlier. Those are ways to slow you down and to stop the chase. They can also vault small windows to kind of keep things going as well. And those were 2 notifications. One for that over there, and one for this. I thought I could grab them in time. Most times they will do a tactic what is called body blocking. It is used to stop you from attacking a survivor, as in they kind of take the hit. It's a smart tactic and very useful in times because it makes things easier for you. Now that everything's done there, I can see this person is healing and injured. This was the same one from before, and this is where the nurse's calling really comes into play here. That being said, work from there and keep it moving. If you would, as you can see, there was someone over here based on the trail, and if you're lucky, you're able to see them like so. Unfortunately, blocked by debris. Like I said, knowing a map is very useful. Don't go for her. Go for her instead, because if you were to hit them, more than likely they have a perk that enables a protection hit, so they don't get what is called why am I forgetting the name? There's a name for it and I cannot remember for the life of me. There's a lot of terms in this game for its terminology they kind of keep track of, and I can't remember what's the name of it. Oh, the name is tunneling. If you hear that term a lot, that is a term used to describe when you attack the same survivor over and over and over again. It's considered an annoying thing by a lot of regards, because the idea is that to keep the game kind of fun for both parties. And when you hit them 3 in a row, they get grabbed and they are essentially out of the game. Long process, but it works. And that's 1, so the goal is to aim for at least 2. And there's someone over here based on the red marks and how close this is to being finished. You kick the generators to kind of regress it. And from there you have to decide, okay, what direction could they be at? And if you notice on the left throughout this game, their marker has been changing from the injured to a full body person. That is showing that they have been healing. So it's to let you know that, okay, someone's been doing stuff. And based on the 2 generators that are being worked on and the blood trail going backwards, you can see it from inside that they messed up. So what you do is you work from here, and one already saw me. I'm not going to go for him at all. He's going to body block, but not to the best degree he could have. I thought I could do the lunge, but it's kind of hard to aim at times. You kind of have your own preference. And what she had was a particular perk, which I do not know the name of, unfortunately, where when all the generators are done, it essentially means that she gets basically kind of an extra life. What happens at the end of each game when all generators are done there are 2 exits. One which can be shown by the glowing flashing light from here, and one that can be shown over there. They have it takes a particular amount of seconds for it to open, or you can just open it as a killer depending on if they are prolonging the game, or you just don't feel like staying in this game that long, which then activates what is called the end game collapse, which is shown at the bar up top. It lasts for a couple of minutes, and what happens is that if no survivors exit the area, they are essentially done. And here you have what is called the hatch. It happens when there is at least 1 survivor in the area left. That is kind of a get out of the area escape free card if they can find it. But if the killer finds it first, they can kick it down, forcing them to either do the generators if there are still some left they have to do, or go towards an exit. And essentially that is the main precipice of the game. And it's just like, at this point, it's more or less just you kind of learn information over time. Knowing a map's layout is very important as well. And that last person just exited. And that's the end. After all this, you get a results screen. Those are the challenges and such shown before. You get a certain amount of blood points based on what you do: brutality, deviousness, hunter, and sacrifice. And let me show a better one here. Oops, it's going through automatically, so hold on one sec. Deviousness, hunter, and sacrifice, which are also kind of shown here in more descriptive ways. These are just your how do I put this? Your ranking of tasks you complete, or stuff you're maintaining over time. So generator progress is what was shown before me kicking it, trying to degress it down. Sacrifice and kills, which was me putting them on the hook for at least 3 separate times, or the reverse bear trap activating, but that's very rare. How often I apply pressure, meaning that if I hurt them, interrupt them, or down them, meaning if I hit them from their injured state, or if I stop them from healing or stop them from working on a generator, like I was doing before. And then just chasing them. When the music hits, that's me chasing after them. And your player level as before. And this is the screen that's very important if you want to start knowing how people kind of operate or what abilities they're using after you're getting countered by such. Since like keeping track of players is kind of important when you're knowing what you could be dealing with, because there is what is known as a meta, which is essentially what is the main thing that is run by a mass majority of people because it's considered to be the most effective. And this was the flashlight that was shown earlier. Same as when you're on the killer screen, you get to see the description of the perks that they run. And for survivors, they have items instead of abilities. So these items are quite effective, and their perks can help them in many different types of situations. And there are hundreds, like a large amount. I don't know about 100. But there's a large amount of perks, but there's hundreds of combinations you can do with it in order to create a interesting build, or at least to see what works or test something out, or any other. Just like, and they get access to the same screen here that I do, so they can see what I ran and what I was dealing with or what I was doing. And after that, you hit continue, and it will bring you back to the main screen you saw before with your loadout, customization, and all that. And that's basically it in that regard. That's the best I can show for what I would think a viewer would need to know in order to kind of enjoy the gameplay that they're presented with. Because when you get into a game or something you're doing, you tend to forget that you need to explain certain aspects of things to viewers. And it's not a bad thing. It just shows like it's an automatic impulse, or you're so into it that you just don't think about it. And a lot of multiplayer games or just single player games with long stories, stuff like that, you just do, and you don't really think about how it looked from another person's perspective if you decide to present it as viewing material. So for me, for most games I play, it's usually single player, co-op, or and the one MMO. And for the single player and co-op, usually I start from the beginning, or the gameplay is really simple and doesn't really require much explanation. Or in the other chance, I discover it and then explain it, or explain it as I discover it. Either way. But in this, when it comes to games like these in this regard, that kind of, I think, require a bit of explanation. It is a long explanation which can easily be dwindled down. But think it's better for my channel and then other people that are viewing it to like know what they're looking at, because a lot of people like are very interested in game but just don't know exactly how it works, and they can look up tutorials if they like, but sometimes they just either don't want to, or the person that they look tutorial at, they don't like the way they explain it. And luckily there are thousands of videos that explain this game, along with a majority of other games as well. And I do highly recommend anyone take the time to just like look at a more official, practical how-to or beginner's guide, because this is more of a impromptu kind of thing, and I kind of want to keep it that way just to see how I kind of function when it comes to just explaining games and stuff to people. And hopefully this was good enough experience for you as it was for me, because I want to keep it in regard and just keep the knowledge going that you're able to kind of follow it to a degree, and then if you want to learn more, you can. That being said, if you do have any if you have any questions or comments you want to put down in chat or in the comments, go right ahead. I'll answer them if I can. If not, I'll put a link or two, or hopefully someone else will be able to give you the answers in chat or comment as well. That being said, I do thank you for watching, and now I'm going to go do a couple of just base games on my own thoughts and just try my best to do what I can. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there and go support whatever content creator you can. Alright, that being said, let's play a couple of games, because this is gonna be interesting now. Because I want to use Pig more, but I got used to playing with headphones. It is it's a different experience. That being said, isn't there an audio thing with this game? Yeah, headphones. What am I looking? I'm really curious what that does. I've only been playing. I'll probably get like a couple more games in, because that tutorial took a bit out of me, and it's getting late on my part. So let's get this going now. Ruin is Ruin. Its effect. Oh man, Ruin is one of the things where it's automatic regression, but the added double bonus to automatic regression, meaning like I don't have to kick it, is very nice. But the thing is, it is a totem which can be destroyed on the field by survivors. So luckily, if it's in a solidly hidden place, it can be effective. If not, it can last for as long as the whole match to literally the first 20 seconds. That's literally its entire thing. That being said, I have not played with add-ons with the Pig that much at all, because I really don't care. Like, I've realized that it's better to learn a killer without add-ons first, to get used to them and kind of develop your own technique with them, and then add add-ons just to flare it up a bit if you feel like it. But in all regards, do not rely on add-ons, because that's the last thing you want to do. Because the moment you don't have that one add-on, you're like, oh crap, what do I do? Or like you're not used to playing a build without it. I'm good. Let's see how long a game takes here. You know, yeah, and I'm gonna make this the last one. This is gonna be a short one, but I got what I wanted to say out of it. Sloppy, but I still think it explained what needed to be done. I know I didn't explain hexes or I don't know. I don't think I explained like being into the game too well, because I'm in the game as well, so I gotta kind of focus on that regard, because I still want to make it fun for the survivors as well. Like it's a multiplayer game, and it's one of those ones where it's multiplayer against two, and it's not competitive. If this game was more competitive, it would have an official rank, and this game doesn't. So like that means it's kind of just like fun for everyone kind of deal. And there are moments where like, yeah, no, you choose a build just to be just to troll or like just to have some fun, but like it's the way the developers have it. If they wanted to segregate their player base in their own game, they would, but like it's fine. It just makes it more difficult for balancing. You'll get like a lot of different complaints about things, but like this game is fun, but it can be quite annoying at times as well. Because there's still something that even I find to be annoying, and I haven't experienced it as much as I used to. But like there are moments where essentially if no generators are getting done, or like survivors can literally stall a game, and it happens very rarely, but it's very annoying because this game has what's essentially matchmaking penalties, and you can't quit out of a game. So you either have to find them and kill them, which survivors, when they hide, it can be the most annoying thing in the world. So like I'm fine with them hiding as long as they're getting the gens done or they're doing an objective, but the moment they hide just to hide, it just becomes like a headache. And you don't want to deal, but you don't want to quit out either. Because then it becomes like, oh yeah, you quit out of a match midway through. Well, obviously you were rage quitting. Like, no, I was dealing with survivors who were hiding all the time, but it's not something you can really prove, so there's no winning there. But this game gives the satisfaction of a cat and mouse chase. It's just like, I do not like recommend this game for competitive people at all. Because it would like literally like their first thought is, I have to get 4 kills. Like, no, aim for 2. Literally, that's it. Once you aim for 2, you're pretty much set. After that, then it kind of just depends on what happens after that. Because you could get low, you can get a snowball effect, or the game could just go back and continue on as usual. I prefer the 2-man approach because that makes things easier on my mentality of trying to keep track of what's happening. There's one thing I do wish they would add, just show a marker of how many times a person's been hooked by on the player icon, because it's very difficult for me to keep track of. I do like, the one thing about this game though I do find interesting is like, unlike stuff like Call of Duty or Battlefield or stuff like that, this game requires kind of prediction and kind of knowing a certain type of person just based on the way they play. And a lot of like high level Dead by Daylight players do a great job of just displaying their kind of ability to read a person. Like how right now Among Us is popular, and that right there is another one of like 1,000 like Find the Traitor games that kind of is used to show a person's tell and how to work from there. That being said, let's see if I can figure out how to better use headphones in this regard, because I'm not grand at it. And I really like maps with upstairs and downstairs are very annoying for me. Because like I don't care about the downstairs one. And usually my rule is to rotate around and go to the right. But like they didn't really give me much leeway. And I don't hear a single thing. I wish I had discordance. Oh, please don't be one of these games where I can't find anybody. This is one of those games, isn't it? Yeah, no, I'm sneaking around because I can't hear anybody. And they're probably downstairs. Oh no, they're over here. Oh, finally, somebody. That's the worst thing about this game. When you can't find a person, it just feels so dead. Alright, so we're going to pop one on him. And if there's still other people, that means they are working on generators. and it should activate eventually. Alright. Unfortunately, I don't have direction. So, it's kind of the sucky part of when I don't have discordance. I have direction. Just gonna wait. I have 2 directions. Oh, there was someone down here. Interesting. Oh, yep. So I'm not gonna go after him because I prefer to go after other people. Like I really just like at least my rules should try to hit one person at least before going after someone else. How? That was a bad hit if I've ever seen one. Alright, hopefully she drops. Or never mind. So the fact that they have at least 2 generators done, I'm gonna put another trap on. It's very hard to like try to tactically choose where to put traps on because everyone has a different method for it. It's just that like they're not kind. Is he down there? Yep. I could tell because I could hear him breathing. They can go in the window, so that's why I paused. Alright, that's another one down. I know that every 13th in the every 13th day, like the date of the 13th, your rank resets, and I haven't like I spent more time upgrading killers to try to understand them more than actually playing the game like I probably should have, but you know. And they're along the wall. Of course they're along. Being along the wall is actually a solid tactic. Because it does make things... Well, I wanted to go for someone else, but... Alright, I'm going to leave her on the floor because I don't want to pick her up. Slugging is kind of annoying. And I did just see someone with a toolbox. And that is someone more important to me. And luckily that door is blocked by a kickable, so I don't have to activate that. Going into the building is kind of annoying because it's hard to track them. So we're going to rotate around and wait for her. Like so. And that person at the bottom left is dead, so I have to redo this, which I really wish they would actually change that when it comes to the pig, because the worst thing that can happen is that you put a bear trap on someone and they either instantly kill themselves on purpose or they desync from the game. You both A, wasted a slot, and B, she might get out of this. Yeah, she got out of it. I've learned the timing of this a lot better, so I could like, once you do this enough times, you can learn the timing, and that's called an unsafe pallet. Meaning that like I said, I played this game to learn terminology, and I try to like implement it, but it's really difficult in higher levels. So like I'm basically just a regular guy playing this. So like when it comes to pallets that are in like long loops, they have to go all the way around, it's kind of annoying. But if it's something small like that, you can kind of mind trick them a bit. That being said, I have 2 people I need to find. 1 person I need to find since that person just activated that. And when I started playing this game, I was like, I'm not in the mood for it. I'll try it later. And then I did that. I tried it later and I'm like, you know what? I'm getting the idea of how this game kind of flows a bit. And I see the appeal of it. And the appeal of this game is literally just being the hunter or tricking the hunter. And everyone kind of has their own margin of how to do things. So now I'm going to put 3rd one on here, and I have basically what is called a beautiful rare opportunity of having everyone have at least a trap on them at the moment, because that means that either they can choose to focus on doing a generator, which very few do, or they can focus on getting a trap off, and that person has had that trap activated for a good while now. And she decided to go for the save instead of deactivate her trap. And I'm not going to go for her because her trap's soon to be activated. Her trap, however, is inactive. And that was a bad swipe on my part. Wow, I am doing terrible things right now. There we go. So this is when I grab her, and this is rare scenario where I do this. And here's the hard part about this game: fighting the person you downed like a distance away, because people can crawl really fast out of this area. Like, their crawl speed can be ridiculous, especially with added perk that increases that, so you kind of lose track of them. And I'm not good at like finding people on the ground. And of course, well, in this scenario, it was a interesting wipe, but still not the best one. I did a lot of sloppy like tactics that didn't really like help me out. A lot of early swings because I got a bit too greedy. This is the killer I find most interesting, and I kind of enjoy most, primarily for her RNG purposes. But in that regard, I'm curious of what rank those guys were at, because yeah. So matchmaking is kind of weird. This is one of those things where I'm like, there are hidden factors that kind of display what your rank / skill level is, because they've changed that and in these past like 3 months multiple times. And I'm like very curious, because I know like I'm probably in a bad margin right now because I was focusing on leveling killers, and that kind of requires you to like, if you're at a high rank and you're leveling someone, and I don't have every killer because I don't care for grabbing certain ones. Like the ones I have are the ones I want. Everyone else I don't really care for, but like, so I was focused on leveling them up, so that kind of decreased my, I guess, skill ceiling to a high regard because I was learning to play them, and fortunately this game doesn't have a tutorial like that. At least I don't think it does anymore, or I don't think it does in general. Well, you kind of learn on the field, and that kind of messes up your, I guess, skill / rank factor. But either way, I am gonna, like, that was interesting. Not like what I wanted though. Like, I don't, like I said, I'm not complaining over a 4-man like kill. I just like, sometimes I enjoy just a simple 1 or 2 kill and that's it. And after that, I just kind of like, okay, then the game just goes whatever. That being said though, I do thank everyone for watching. I know this one was a lot shorter than the usual ones, but I did want to get that perspective kind of view out there now to kind of see how that rolls with it. I'm not too sure when I'm going to post that one, but I'm going to see how I kind of feel about it before I do. That being said, I do thank everyone for watching and participating in this, and like, just thank you for like showing interest in that kind of thing. When it comes to the stuff I was saying, kind of helped me out in that regard. That being said, I do thank you guys for watching, and if you can, go and support whatever content creator you can, and stay safe out there.